if you will allow me, I would like to start with the crisis in Gaza. The latest toll shows that it's almost 16,000 children, 10,000 women, and in total more than 37,000 Palestinians have been killed since 7th of October, and violence is now also increasing in the occupied West Bank as well. And I know you've called for a ceasefire and the immediate release of all hostages since the beginning, but is there anything else that you'd like to say?
I'd like to say enough is enough. Too many civilians have already lost their lives in Gaza. Too many women, too many children. This cycle of bloodletting, mayhem, destruction is not sustainable. We've done it, we've seen the patterns over decades and decades, and all it does is create more hate, more destruction, more pain, more suffering, more psychological dislocation. The longer it persists, the greater is the probability that it will spill over and create new dynamics. That is why it needs to be brought under control. Because the last thing we want is a total conflagration in the Middle East. It will serve no one's interests. There has been a failure, but the failure has not been that of the UN or the General Assembly. The General Assembly was in fact the first UN organ to pass a strong, decisive resolution on Gaza way back in October of 2023. Mm-hmm. And in that resolution, the UN's brand is, let's sit around the table and discuss our differences so that we can work through them and find a credible solution. It is never the resort to arms, ammunition, and murder.
If we stay on the topic of the UN, United Nations reform, sir, as you may recall, Turkish President Erdogan was one of the among the first leaders calling out for a reform of the United Nations, and he said the world is bigger than five, and now we see this voice is increasing. What do you think needs to be done? What kind of reform does the United Nations need?
We need a reform that would position the Security Council to take the decisions that it's empowered to take, and to take those decisions in the best interest of the world community at large, not in the narrow interests of any individual state or group of states. And we need a Security Council that is agile, functional, bold, and that takes to heart the execution of its mandate under the Charter. We do not at the moment have that in the Security Council. Perhaps in the future, hopefully, because there is a process of Security Council reform that is ongoing, and which of course we fully support in the General Assembly. The fact that we are here discussing the issue of Gaza demonstrates that the Security Council had been operating at what can only be regarded as suboptimal level, and failing therefore to properly discharge its mandate. The system as it is structured relies on a strong Security Council, but it also relies on a strong General Assembly. And I like to think, and I've said to my staff, every member of the General Assembly benefits every day when we apply the rules. Whether you are directly involved or not, the rules save all of us. Fantastic. And that is the beauty of the rules. That is why they must be upheld. Because if they are to be effective, they have to be universal, and they must apply equally across the board so that everyone knows that they're being treated justly and fairly, and that they can have confidence in the rules.